Hey everybody, welcome into another episode of Saturdays Rewritten here on YouTube or your favorite podcast listening platform. Today we are going to dive into what was a wild week 4 with some big time results, maybe some new coaches on the hot seat, just a lot to get into here, and also some drama with Oklahoma and Auburn. Some big time games, big time results to get into. So we're going to dive in. Before we do that, however, if you would like this video and subscribe to my channel, that would be greatly appreciated, as I hope to gain some traction with the algorithm. You know how it goes. And then, of course, if you are listening on podcast, if you would leave me a 5-star review, be greatly appreciated. Without further ado, guys, let's get into it. Okay, so we got to talk about it. We got to talk about the Clemson Tigers. They were my pick to win the national championship this year, and they made me look brilliant as they are off to a 1-3 start. First time ever under Dabo Swinney that they've gone 1-3 to start a season. Unbelievable. And this was the team that everybody, myself included, was saying, hey, they've got 86% returning production from last year's team. They've got Cade Klubnik. They've got NFL draft picks on both sides of the ball. This is a homegrown team. This is most of the coaching staff is back, and they brought in Tom Allen from Penn State to coach the defense, a defense that had gone 69th last year for the first time in a long time that we'd seen a Clemson defense that bad. He's going to come in and fix it, and they're dedicated to tackling on defense, and everything's just going to be right as rain. Their schedule looks pretty easy for the most part, other than that tough LSU game, maybe South Carolina at end of the season. This is just the perfect season for Clemson. And here we are. 1-3 to start the season. It's Syracuse. Hats off to Syracuse. They came in and dominated the Clemson Tigers 34-21, and their quarterback was precise. I mean, he was surgical, which is kind of ironic to say given that he tore his Achilles in this game. That's a tough break to say the least. But he was surgical. If you're going to go out in a season, and yeah, I mean, that's about the best way you could go out, is taking down Clemson in Death Valley, which, by the way, Death Valley these days seems to be kind of a hospitable place for opposing teams. Last year, Louisville marched right into Death Valley and took down the Tigers. South Carolina got them there last year. It's starting to become a theme that teams can come into Death Valley and get wins. Gosh, I don't know, man. Like this is bad for Clemson, that we could be looking at just a blow up of a season right here. They're 1-3 right now. I don't really know what the rest of the season holds for them. I think they could certainly bounce back. I mean, they have the talent to do it. There's no reason to me that this roster couldn't turn this around based on their schedule, and we're talking about them going 9-3, and does that get them to the ACC championship game like last year? I don't know, but right now I don't think this team I don't think that team that played yesterday is beating anybody. Maybe North Carolina is looking pretty rough. They do play them this year, but it's just not looking good. And, for Dabo Swinney to call out the media like he did last week, and then they put out this performance, not a good look, Dabo. A lot of criticism has been heaped on him for his unwillingness to use the transfer portal. And, there is some truth to that, but he has gone out and gotten transfer guys. I think they've only gotten 5 since the transfer portal really turned into what it is today. And again, to a lot of people's point, everybody's arguing it's adapt or die. Is this what we're seeing with Clemson right now? You guys comment below. What does Clemson need to do to get back into the swing of things? Is it time for Dabo to move on? That seems pretty extreme. Is this the year that we talk about Dabo Swinney moving on from his time at Clemson? He's going to want to go coach elsewhere. There's a lot of frustration around this Clemson program because they see what they can be done back in 2016 and 2018 to where we are now, to where it's almost like college football has left them behind. Or is this the time where Dabo adapts and sees, okay, there's a game, the game has changed. It's adapt or die. I'm going to adapt with it. And suddenly we're talking about Clemson back in 2027. We're talking about Clemson being back in the playoff picture. Is that the direction this could go? I don't know. There's so many different ways that this could go. But to me, Dabo needs to start looking around, maybe the transfer portal. I know he's very adamant about building a culture at Clemson and keeping everything in-house. Not saying you can't mostly do that. In fact, regular recruiting is needed. The last I looked, Clemson was only 15th in recruiting. And that seems to be about the height of where Clemson goes. When they were dominating in that 2016 to 2018 run, they were always in the top 5 in recruiting. Now we're in the top 15 to top 25. So if we are going to go just the in-house, build the culture, only focus on recruiting, then we got to have some elite recruiting classes and stack them one on top of the other. Because I just don't know if that's going to cut it. So it's going to be interesting to see what Dabo does from here. I like Dabo. To me, he's one of the all-time greats. He will never be forgotten for what he's done in 2016 to 2018. I think some Clemson fans have been way too harsh on him in that the dude brought Clemson to relevance. I mean, we're talking about them becoming a blue blood. That's how good it was. And I think it could get back there, but Dabo's got to look himself in the mirror, I think, and decide, do I want to adapt with the direction college football is going? I think that's a genuine question he has to ask. So, anyways, a lot more to get into. Auburn and Oklahoma. This was a pretty solid game. Number 22, Auburn, goes into Oklahoma, and it's the return of Jackson Arnold, their quarterback from last year. Gotta say, Oklahoma, I was kind of surprised by some of your fans heckling Jackson Arnold, to me, I thought he kind of fought hard for Oklahoma last year in what was just an abysmal situation. So many injuries across that entire roster. The offense was just demolished, and everybody was quick to pounce on Arnold for especially that game against Tennessee where he was benched. And then it was just a very up and down season from there. His numbers definitely were not great, don't get me wrong, but to put it all on him was kind of surprising to me. And then just the way people mocked him and jeered at him when he was at the game this last Saturday, it was kind of surprising. So I'm certainly not saying that's all of Oklahoma. Those specific fans don't speak for all of OU, but that was kind of a bummer to see. In any case, it was a pretty solid ball game. 24-17 was the final. Oklahoma would go on to win. But this game was also not without its controversy. A lot of reports indicating that this was one of the worst officiated games in some time. And this right here was a play that was rife with controversy. And I frankly think Auburn got hosed. You guys tell me what you think.
Looks like he's walking off the field from the previous play. They decide as soon as he walks off to try to snap it, catch him off guard. Auburn never sees him.
Now let's bring in Matt Austin. Matt, tell us about that situation.
Yeah, I wish I could see the player all the way to the sideline, but I can't. But you cannot use the substitution process to deceive your opponent. If that's what they were trying to do, that's an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. It should be 15 yards and no touchdown.
Perhaps that's what Hugh Freeze was screaming at Jeff Heezer about.
So it gets worse for Auburn fans when this comes out. The SEC just released a statement about that play where Oklahoma scored that should not have counted. Oklahoma disguised a receiver during a substitution using the hideout tactic on the sideline and threw a touchdown to him on that play. According to the SEC, the touchdown should have been waved off, and the Sooners should have received a 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty, which would have made it 2nd and 37. Oklahoma would go on to win that game, obviously, by 7, 24-17. Going from a touchdown to 2nd and 37, there's a little bit of a difference there, don't you say? So I think Hugh Freeze, when you saw him yelling at that official there, I think Hugh Freeze had every right to be pretty irate about that whole thing. It absolutely, from my vantage point, looked like that's what Oklahoma was trying to do, substitute the receiver. I would have assumed as one of those Auburn defenders, he's off subbing. We're good. My priorities shift. And as a result, that results in a touchdown. So, I can't knock Oklahoma too hard for trying a sort of trick play like that, but it does look pretty, I don't know, underhanded in the grand scheme of things. And to win a game like that, I'm not saying that's the only reason. Auburn absolutely had opportunities, and their offense was not great. And Jackson Arnold was sacked several times. So it's not to say that Auburn necessarily deserved to win. I'm not saying that. But I do think that play absolutely changes things. And we're talking about a different ball game potentially. So would it guarantee an Auburn win? Not necessarily, but man, I think Auburn absolutely got hosed on that call. So Oklahoma, they stay undefeated, and they are now in the top 10 as a result. They've jumped to number 7 in the AP poll with that win. Auburn, I wonder where Auburn is. Let me double check here and see if they're still in the top 25. Auburn has been bounced from the top 25. Again, it's the AP poll. Who cares at this point in the season? Auburn is receiving 122 votes for what it's worth. Hope that makes War Eagle feel better. But in any case, kind of a bum deal. Oklahoma, other than that, Oklahoma's defense looks elite. Gotta say, their pressure on Jackson Arnold, man, I felt bad for him. He was just getting lit up. And he played hard. So shout out to him there. How about Notre Dame? Notre Dame gets back on track, beating Purdue. They hung over 50 on them this time around. Last year they put 66 on them. So good for Notre Dame. I think Purdue rather looked improved, especially compared to last year's result against Notre Dame. Still some question marks about Notre Dame's defense for me, but you could argue that Notre Dame could potentially run the table. They're 22nd in the country. They could run the table and still make it into the college football playoff. And again, Notre Dame's schedule, other than this trip to Arkansas this week, and by the way, Arkansas, they lost to Memphis this last week in brutal fashion, yet another fumble to end the game. Arkansas is going to be playing for their life, essentially. Coach Pittman is going to be coaching for his life at this point. I mean, Arkansas cannot, if they beat Notre Dame, maybe that gives him a lifeline. Still, the rest of his schedule is brutal, so who knows. But if Notre Dame can beat Arkansas, and then they go back into another homestand where you got teams like USC coming to Notre Dame as opposed to going to the Coliseum. So Notre Dame's home schedule sets up well for them, all to say. You could make the argument that Notre Dame can sneak into the playoff if they win out, but they really do need to win out. How about Michigan at Nebraska? 21st ranked Michigan at the time goes into Lincoln, a tough place to play. I really thought it was Nebraska's time to come out and make a statement win. And really, I mean, Matt Rule, we've seen it before. In year 3, he really launches the program to an upper echelon. And I thought it was going to be the time. I thought Nebraska gets it done. Michigan's looked solid. They looked solid on the road at Oklahoma. I just didn't necessarily think that they were going to be able to punch past Nebraska here. And I thought we were maybe going to see a little bit more out of Dylan Raiola. But man, Michigan goes out and gets the job done against the Cornhuskers, 30-27. Bryce Underwood, the kid can ball. He is mature beyond his years. He just recently turned 18, guys. Michigan spent their money well, dropping that $10 million to bring him into the program. That's what I said this in the offseason. Everyone is sleeping on Michigan. With last year, they didn't even have a quarterback, you could argue. They couldn't throw the ball. It was the worst passing offense in the country. And then to put Bryce Underwood into that offense to where, again, still has a lot of work to do throwing the ball. I think even Michigan fans would agree. But he's made the offense that much better. Just a smidge even is a big improvement. You add that into their amazing run game. You got Justice Haynes in the background going for 17 carries, 149 yards, and a touchdown. He's had a great season, by the way. It's got to feel good for him going from Alabama, where they couldn't run the ball, to here at Michigan, where he's the feature. But again, Bryce Underwood, 12 of 22, 105 yards. So he doesn't even need to do that much in order to get this offense clicking in the right direction. He had a 37-yard run for a touchdown in the first quarter. Nebraska responded, made it 10-10. Justice Haynes, another big 75-yard touchdown run, which got the bulk of his yardage. But, man, Michigan's defense is just impressive. Shout out to their defense there. Shout out to the pressures that they put on Dylan Raiola. He was sacked a good bit, if memory serves, but he was just uncomfortable. So, big credit to them. I think they had 5 or 6 sacks as a team, if I have that number right. But again, offensively, 7 yards per play, 286 yards rushing, and that includes Underwood. They let him they took the top off a little bit, so to speak, and let him throw the ball deeper downfield. They didn't even win the time of possession. That was Nebraska. So shout out to the Michigan defense for playing as tough as they did. Pretty clean game overall, only 7 total penalties between the two teams. So it was just a good game, and Michigan came out on top. Curious to see what Michigan can do. And that was without Sharon Moore, by the way. They host Wisconsin this coming week before they get ready to go to the Coliseum. That's going to be another good game. USC's looking good, by the way. But yeah, Wisconsin, there's another job, by the way, that could be opening up, as Luke Fickell, I don't know if he can hack it in the Big Ten. Wisconsin dropped this week to Maryland, 27-10. I don't know. Wisconsin's a rough job right now. They're hurting, but I don't have too many Wisconsin. Gosh, I keep saying Wisconsin, Nebraska. I don't have too many Wisconsin notes on me this week, but just thought I would throw that out there. In any case, shout out to Michigan. What about Illinois at Indiana? Oh my gosh. Absolute murder. Illinois was ranked 9th coming into this game against 19th ranked Indiana. Battle of the Block Eyes. And Indiana demolishes Illinois 63-10. Coach Cignetti will eviscerate you. That guy goes for the jugular. Fernando Mendoza, what a baller. 5 touchdowns, the AP player of the week. 5 touchdowns and over 300 yards. He's got 14 touchdowns on the season with no interceptions. Indiana's offense looks great. Their defense just threw Illinois off their game. The crowd was packed to the rafters, the nosebleeds. They were full, and it was a raucous environment. Indiana does not look like a team you want to be playing. And as of this recent, Illinois falls 14 spots in the AP poll, all the way down to 23rd. Indiana launches themselves up 8 spots to 11th in the AP poll. Again, AP poll doesn't mean everything, but I'm just saying, I thought those swings and rankings were warranted. Indiana's going to go to Iowa this week, and I feel like they'll be fine there based on how well their offense is doing. At Iowa is a tough spot, and I do think that Iowa can be a pain in the side of Indiana for a bit, but I just feel like Coach Cignetti's going to have this team ready to go. So shout out to Indiana, man. They're trying to vault themselves up into the upper tiers of the Big Ten as far as, hey, don't forget about us. He's that type. He's got that dog in him, I tell you. You've seen some of those press conferences.
When it comes to that culture you were just talking about, meshing the recruits you're getting and some of the guys you kept, where does that process start? I mean, what
do you mean? I don't get the question.
Well, when you recruit them, how do you sell your vision of your culture? I mean, what's the...
Who are you talking about? The high school guys, the transfers, who?
All of the above. I mean, how do you... Is there
it's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
So there you go, from the man himself. Okay, Michigan State at 25th ranked USC. I didn't stay up for this one because it started at 10 my time, and I got church in the morning. I can't do that. But USC gets the win, 45-31. I went to bed when it was 7-3. Michigan State had just had a deep ball over the top on a wheel route. But USC, their offense is looking real good. You know, some questions about their defense giving up 31, but I also think Michigan State's a solid team. So all in all, I think it's a solid win for the Trojans. And USC, they will now improve to 21st in the AP poll. So they're slowly moving up. It's better for college football when USC is ranked and they're a threat. So the offense looks great this year, much improved. They're putting up massive points and massive yards. Jaden Mayava, 20 of 26, 234 yards, 3 touchdowns. Wayman Jordan, 18 carries, 157 yards. USC looks good, and they look good in the trenches for opening up all those running lanes. It's going to be interesting to see how they continue going forward, especially when they run into some of the heavier competition. But watch out for USC. Maybe they throw themselves into the upper echelon of those Big Ten rankings. Florida at Miami. Gosh, Florida's offense just can't get it going. It's tough. Florida's defense played their heart out once again, and the offense just can't get it going. They lose 26-7. But it was so close all the way through 4 quarters. It was 13-7 in the 4th. And there was a point where Florida, they went for it on 4th down. I personally thought they should have kicked the field goal. It would have been 13-10 if they did that. And it went in, of course. But they went for it on 4th again. I understand Coach Napier's decision in that I'm coaching for my life here. I have got to go for this. He doesn't get it. And now as a result, Florida drops to 1-3. And I just feel bad at this point. I mean, it doesn't get any easier. They play 10th ranked Texas at the Swamp. Now, Texas does not look as invincible as they did to start the season based on, predictions and preseason rankings. But it's still Texas. Texas still has a great defense. What's the offense going to do? They can't even score more than 16 against South Florida. And we're going to expect them to score a bunch against Texas, enough to win. This could be a really ugly game. But if they're able to cobble together a win against Texas, that would be huge, because then they got to go on the road and play 9th-ranked Texas A&M. Texas A&M just jumped Texas in the rankings, by the way. They're off to an impressive start. Then they got Mississippi State. They're unranked, but they're close to the top 25. Mississippi State's vastly improved. And then you got 5th-ranked Georgia. Not to mention the final stretch of games, Ole Miss at Ole Miss. 15th-ranked Tennessee comes to town. They're looking good. And then you finish with Florida State, and Florida State is just a buzzsaw right now. We're going to see what they do against Miami here in a week or so. I'm not sure if they play this week. Let's check. Yeah. They play in 2 weeks, October 4th. They play Virginia this week. I feel bad for Virginia, but we'll see. If Florida State can go get the job done against Virginia, that's going to be a great game against hosting Miami. But man, Florida's hurting right now. Billy Napier's coaching for his job. It's not looking good. And then lastly, I wanted to bring up South Carolina at Missouri. I'm surprised with South Carolina, man. Lenora Sellers running for his life. My overall takeaway, South Carolina was penalized 12 times for 88 yards. They lost to Missouri. And also, there was a 15-yarder as the Tigers were trying to run out the clock. Missouri's defense spent the game in the South Carolina backfield, piling up 8 tackles for loss, which included 5 sacks on Lenora Sellers. The receivers just don't look that good for South Carolina, in my opinion. Just kind of a rough setup. I don't know. South Carolina's got some things to figure out, and they've got to do it quick. Missouri, on the other hand, shout out to Prabula. I mean, Missouri had a tough game against Kansas the week before, and they are able to get it done as well against South Carolina. I feel a cough coming on here. Just recently bought this 40-ounce water bottle here. Kendra says I need to drink more water. Sorry for you podcast listeners if you heard that. Anyways, South Carolina, I don't know. I was very high on them coming into this season. They could still put some things together. They still look like a talented team. That the pieces are there. But I worry about that offensive line, and I worry about the receiving core. And it's held true thus far with another disappointing loss. It was a close game. Shout out to Missouri. They're looking better than I thought. I thought Missouri was going to be an afterthought, frankly, and their schedule's pretty easy. They're still in the SEC, so it's tough. But in comparison to some other SEC teams, I think Missouri's down lower on that end of the spectrum. So Missouri could set themselves up nicely here. So there we go. That's my reaction to week 4. Great football, exciting storylines, some dramatic storylines, especially with Clemson. What do you guys think Clemson's going to finish at? Drop your comments below. What games are you excited about this week? I've got another episode coming out here. It should drop on Friday. In any case, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on for the next one. Peace out.